working to connect a region of over 600 million bridges between our lands.
Hello and welcome to ASEAN in Focus. I'm Maricar Velasco.
Delivering to you the latest news in around the Asian region. I'm PJ Bendicio.
On today's headlines, newly appointed Foreign Affairs Secretary and concurrent representative to the United Nations, Teodoro Locsin Jr., represented President Rodrigo Duterte at the 12th ASEAN Summit and EU-ASEAN leaders meeting in Brussels, Belgium on October 18, Central European Summertime.
China and Southeast Asian states will hold their joint maritime exercises this week, officials said Friday, in a move aimed at easing tension, but which may spark US alarm.
A $1 billion hydroelectric dam development in Indonesia that threatens the habitat of the world's rarest great ape has sparked fresh concerns about the impact of China's globe-spanning infrastructure drive.
And preparations well underway in Papua New Guinea for the 2018 Asia-Pacific Economic Cooperation, or APEC.
Newly appointed Foreign Affairs Secretary and concurrent representative to the United Nations, Teodoro Locsin Jr., represented President Rodrigo Duterte at the 12th Asia-Europe meeting summit and EU-ASEAN leaders meeting in Brussels, Belgium on October 18, Central European Summertime. ASEM, a platform for dialogue and cooperation between Asia and Europe, is expected to reinforce its role as a catalyst for effective alliance of countries pursuing common goals, as well as to bring out the pillars of partnership, including peace and security, trade and investment, sustainable development, and people-to-people ties. Let's listen in.
We congratulate President Donald Tusk on steering the ASEAN summit to its successful conclusion today. The summit brings us to a tighter partnership between Asia and Europe to address challenges global in scale and import. Our talks covered a wide range of concerns in politics, economics, and culture, and I added migration. The Asian experience with Europe in history is the other face of the European experience with Asia. At this summit, no judgments were made about that experience. What there was instead was a determined and cooperative effort to discover the best possibilities of the greatest mutual benefit by moving forward. ASEM's value added was to show how informal dialogue can move forward even on the most difficult issues. Among the issues, I have no doubt, developments in the Korean Peninsula are the most important today and in the future. An ASEAN-EU meeting will take place later in the day to talk about extending a 40-year dialogue into the next 40 years. Two regions that account for some of the best functioning economies and organized societies of the present are involved here, and there's clearly something there of value we intend to keep growing. Thank you.
Staying at the summit, more than 50 European and Asian leaders backed free trade and the fight against the climate change on Friday in a veiled swipe at U.S. President Donald Trump and his increasingly protectionist approach. As disputes fester with Washington and 12th summit of the Asia-European meeting gave its support to the World Trade Organization, or WTO, which Trump has accused of treating the U.S. unfairly.
We should all make use of this impressive weight to tackle global challenges, such as trade tensions that put millions of jobs at risk, the growing distrust in multilateral institutions, undermining the stability of our societies, and the growing threat of climate change. To those who prefer quick fixes without clear rules, I say it is not worth it. A world of no rules is, by definition, a world of chaos.
EU diplomatic chief Federica Mogherini insisted as she arrived that it was not anti-Trump meeting before enumerating most of the current areas of differences between Europe and the United States.
Is this an anti-Trump meeting?
We don't organize meetings against anyone. We have, you know me by now, but this is really the European attitude. We have our agenda. It's a very clear agenda. It's an agenda that supports multilateralism, starting from the UN system, climate change action, trade, free and fair, non-proliferation, and international agreements that support the non-proliferation global architecture. And this is at the center of our work with different partners around the world, and Asia is a very important one.
Senior figures from Asia and Europe gathered in Brussels for talks over 2 days, including the Prime Minister of China, Japan, and Russia. The leaders committed to ensure free and open trade on a level playing field and fight all forms of protectionism, including protectionist unilateral measures and unfair trade practices, in a statement issued after the summit.
China and Southeast Asian states will hold their first joint maritime exercises this week, officials said Friday, in a move aimed at easing tensions, but which may spark U.S. alarm. Beijing's expansive claims to the South China Sea have long been a source of friction with rival claimants in Southeast Asia, as well as Washington, which has traditionally been the dominant naval power in the area. Despite disagreements over Beijing's territorial ambitions, China and the Southeast Asia are trying to strike a more conciliatory tone in an effort to stop tensions from spiraling dangerously out of control. As part of this, the navies of China and the 10-member Association of Southeast Asian Nations are set to hold their first joint drills, which will take place in the South China Sea. However, some observers see the exercise as part of efforts by China to diminish American influence in the region by forging closer ties with Washington's traditional allies and partners.
Southeast Asian nations seeking a combat the fear of militancy have agreed to share intelligence, Singapore's defense minister said Saturday, as he warned of a real and present danger to the region. In a statement after hosting a meeting of defense minister, Minister Nang Eng Hen said more than a year after Islamic State linked fighters seized the southern Philippine city of Marawi. The terrorist threat is as potent as ever, adding that they are expecting more foreign fighters to come this way. Unfortunately, even as the situation in Iraq and Syria improves. Nang said all 18 ministers at the gathering in Singapore from Southeast Asia and key partners outside the region viewed terrorism as a real and present threat. The minister added the Southeast Asian delegates adopted an information sharing platform called Our Eyes that will be used to share real-time intelligence that can immediately be acted upon.
I announced that Japan is planning to launch professional airmanship program. This program seeks to further enhance confidence building among Japan Air Self-Defense Force and air services of all ASEAN member states through inviting air officers of ASEAN to Japan. This program aims at promoting shared values to ensure rule of law.
Defense chiefs from the U.S. and China agreed in principle to guidelines on encounters between warplanes in the latest bid by Pacific nations to keep increased military activity from escalating into conflict. U.S. Secretary of Defense James Mattis and 7 other regional military chiefs, including China's General Wei Fenghe, gave broad endorsement to the rules in Singapore on Saturday during a meeting hosted by the Association of Southeast Asian Nations. The document, which follows similar guidelines on naval encounters signed in 2014, urges military planes to establish communication with other aircraft, identify themselves, and avoid maneuvers or signals that could provoke a response. The non-binding guidelines had been formally adopted a day earlier by defense ministers from ASEAN's 10 member nations. The 18-member ASEAN plus 8 partners also include Australia, India, Japan, New Zealand, Russia, and South Korea. The full grouping could formally adopt the air encounter guidelines during the next year's ASEAN meetings in Thailand.
Here at the Shoe Museum in Marikina in the Philippines, reminding you to watch Digital News every Tuesday and Thursday at 7:30 p.m. And I am 1 for 25.
Landmarks, Linggo, alas 6 hanggang alas 7 ng gabi.
Hi guys, I'm Ariel.
And I'm Kenneth. And we're your new hosts for The Break Room.
So please watch us every Monday at 7:30 to 8 in the evening. We are 1 with 25.
Welcome back. $1 billion hydroelectric dam development in Indonesia that threatens the habitat of world's rarest great apes has sparked fresh concerns about the impact of China's globe-spanning infrastructure drive. The site of the dam in the Batang Toru rainforest in Sumatra Island is the only known habitat for the Tapanuli orangutan, a newly discovered species that numbers about 800 individuals in total. The $1.6 billion project, which is expected to be operational by 2022, will cut through the heart of the critically endangered animals' habitat, which is also home to agile gibbons, siamangs, and Sumatran tigers. The development is one of dozens being pushed by the government to improve electricity supply throughout the sprawling archipelago, parts of which are regularly plugged by blackouts. But the Chinese-backed project has sparked fierce resistance from conservationists, who say the potential environmental risk has already seen the World Bank Group shy away from environment.
Tanda kutip, kalau di manusia istilahnya incest, kalau di satwa istilahnya inbreeding. Oleh karena itu ini tentunya akan memperlemah genetik dia itu sendiri. Belum lagi dengan tekanan tadi, katakanlah terisolirnya akibat dari pembukaan jalan atau terputusnya. Dan ini tidak bisa bertahan lama sebagai suatu wilayah kalau mereka sudah terisolir di sini. Dan
lalu jalan yang dibangun akan mengisolasi habitat orangutan sehingga mereka tidak bisa saling bertegur sapa gitu Mas ya. Kalau bahasa gaulnya tidak bisa saling bersilang begitu, dan akhirnya mereka akan menikah satu darah dan itu akan mempercepat kepunahan. Jadi klaim mereka tidak membuka lahan luas itu sebenarnya mereka tutup-tutupi bahwa ada
Allegedly aimed at busting visa abusers and illegal migrants, a 5-police operation called X-Ray Outlaw Foreigner has raised questions about racial profiling and fears for asylum seekers caught in its web. Tens of millions of tourists come to Thailand each year for the cheap living and postcard-perfect beaches, with some seeking out the seedier thrills of a bustling sex industry. However, as weak law enforcement, porous borders, and corruption help make the country a hub for transnational crime, Thai authorities are intensifying Operation X-Ray, a program that started about a year ago with more than 1,000 people arrested in recent weeks, most for overstaying their visa. Although the vast majority caught in the dragnet are migrants from nearby countries, the racial overtones of the campaign have sparked concerns about profiling based on skin color. The Immigration Bureau Chief Surachate Hakparn said their job is to classify who are the good dark-skinned people and who are the ones likely to commit crimes. He told media that the operation was aimed at weeding out visa overstayers and nabbing criminals, especially romance scammers who lure lonely locals online to defraud them of cash. He insisted that the romance scammers are often Nigerian or Ugandan.
คนต่างชาตินะครับไม่ว่าหลบหนีเข้าเมืองนะครับหรือว่าโอเวอร์สเตย์หรือการอยู่เกินกำหนดนะครับก็พวกนี้นะครับส่วนใหญ่แล้วที่เราจับมาจากสถิติเนี่ยนะครับจะกระทำผิดกฎหมายนะครับเช่นจะเป็นแก๊งโรแมนต์สแกมบ้างนะครับแบ็กมันนี่บ้างนะครับหรือว่าเกี่ยวยาเสพติดบ้างเป็นต้นนะครับก็เดือดร้อนนะครับบางคนก็หลอกคนไทยนะหลอกลวงให้รักโรแมนต์สแกมเป็นต้นนะครับก็ทำให้คนไทยเสียหายนะครับเสียเงินเสียทองนะครับแล้วก็นำเรื่องมาร้องเรียนนะครับกับทางเจ้าที่ตำรวจนะครับทางรัฐบาลนะครับทราบเรื่องนะครับก็ลงมากำชับเรื่องนี้นะครับให้ดำเนินการอย่างเป็นรูปธรรมและอย่างจริงจังครับจริงๆแล้วในขั้นตอนการปฏิบัติจริงๆเราเลือกตรวจทุกสัญชาติโดยไม่เลือกสัญชาตินะตรวจทุกคนทั้งผิวขาวผิวสีผิวเหลืองตามที่นำเรียนครับผมแต่อาจจะเป็นด้วยว่าผู้ที่ถูกจับกุมเนี่ยจะเป็นผิวเหลืองหรือผิวสีซะมากกว่าครับ
6 Rohingya were killed early Friday after a blaze tore through an overcrowded camp for the persecuted minority in Myanmar's Rakhine state. According to Fire Department official Han So, the conflagration in Ondao Chai camp, which houses some 4,000 Rohingya and lies 15 miles, or 24 kilometers from Sitwe, started just before midnight and lasted several hours. Local media reports a total of 822 people were left without shelter. Global attention has focused on the 720,000 Rohingya Muslims forced from the state's north into Bangladesh last year by a brutal military crackdown. The Human Rights Council has accused top Myanmar generals of genocide over the bloody campaign, allegations the country strongly denies.
Slovakia may freeze diplomatic relations with Vietnam if allegations that it used the EU country to secretly transport a Vietnamese oil executive back to Hanoi are confirmed. This according to a Slovak Foreign Ministry spokesman. Foreign Ministry spokesman Boris Gonzal said their bilateral relations will be frozen unless they get a plausible explanation from Vietnam of how their kidnapped citizen was transported to Vietnam. Gonzal was referring to the kidnapping of Vietnamese citizen Trinh Xuan Tan from Germany in July 2017. A senior Communist Party functionary facing corruption charges, Tan had been seeking political asylum in Germany. The kidnapped Tan was spirited back to Hanoi, allegedly via Slovakia, and has since been sentenced to 2 life terms on charges of corruption during his time as the head of state-run Petro-Vietnam Construction, a subsidiary of the country's largest oil firm. Tan is one of the highest-ranking officials to be sought by the communist governments in recent years as the administration wages an anti-corruption drive to polish its image and clean up bloated state enterprises. Vietnam has always insisted that Tan return voluntarily to face embezzlement charges.
Mike Hoy, a dissident musician dubbed Vietnam's Lady Gaga, has appealed to Facebook's directors to safeguard freedom of expression as the government looks to bolster its control of the web. With 53 million users, Facebook is extremely popular in Vietnam, where the internet has become a battleground for activists like Hoy. A controversial cybersecurity bill due to come into effect in January will require internet companies to remove toxic content and hand over user data if asked by the communist government to do so. It also requires firms to host servers in country, which has sparked fears of further government meddling.
Protecting freedom of expression should be official policy of Facebook, but sadly it's not. Freedom of expression in Vietnam is not guaranteed. I don't know why Facebook is helping or they are ignoring how the government supporters silence dissent.
Going now to Papua New Guinea, where APEC preparations are currently taking place. APEC's 21 member economies are the United States, Australia, Brunei Darussalam, Canada, Chile, China, Hong Kong, China, Indonesia, Japan, Malaysia, Mexico, New Zealand, Papua New Guinea, Peru, the Philippines, Russia, Singapore, Republic of China, Chinese Taipei, Thailand, and Vietnam. Here's Echo Hortaleza Quinola for the report.
This building behind me is where the Asia Pacific Economic Corporation, or APEC 2018, will be held at. This is the APEC House. The APEC leaders from different countries will come to Papua New Guinea to formulate a multi-year plan. The APEC Summit is the largest event that will be done in Papua New Guinea. The global focus is now on Papua New Guinea as it will host this year's Asia Pacific Economic Corporation, or the so-called APEC, on November 15 to 17, 2018 under the theme Inclusion in the Age of Disruption, Charting a Common Future. The APEC leaders, global CEOs, and thought leaders will come to Port Moresby, the capital city of Papua New Guinea. Preparations are well underway to welcome the presidents and prime ministers. As of now, some of the advanced party delegates are already here to have the chance to see what this country have in store that can be showcased in the world. This country will experience an influx of foreign investments and will be a strong source of employment opportunities, not just for the nationals of PNG, but for us too, the Filipinos.
We need investment. We need partnerships. We need capital to develop our country. And so APEC is going to present a wonderful opportunity, marketing opportunity for Papua New Guinea, because there's so many opportunities with the wealth that we have and the wonderful people that we have and the beautiful culture that we have, where we're placed geographically as well with our partners. This country has got all the makings of a huge success story, and it will be.
It's a major undertaking, but it's very, very important when it comes to promoting the country, economically wise, putting it on the map for tourism, business, many different aspects. I mean, the whole world will be watching. Having these world leaders here is creating history for our country and the region, not forgetting the Pacific. We've never had leaders like this before ever come to this area.
Reporting from Port Moresby, Papua New Guinea, this is Echo Hortaleza Quinola, and I am one with 25.
And that is the latest news in the Southeast Asian nations. I'm PJ Bendicio.
Stay updated about the ASEAN region. I'm Maricar Velasco. And we are one with 25.